VFX and animation, where imagination becomes a reality. With AI, they're producing captivating animation series on a shoestring budget. Discover how at our panel discussion on AI's impact on VFX and animation.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Yay! You! I'm Pat. I'm a scientist, and I'm also a kid that loves dinosaurs, as you can see from my outfit here. So because our panel, right, is called Pixel of Possibility, the first thing that I want to do is, because we are all from different places. Some of us from actually Australia. I'm from Boston. I just arrived yesterday. So what are we going to do if all of us look in the back? I'm going to use AI to unite all of us together. And to make me less nervous, I'm going to put all of us on a dinosaur with the power of AI, right? That's, all the panelists on a dinosaur ride. Or because we're in Hollywood, right? We are superheroes here. Or if we don't do it well, we're going to all become robots. So we need to be really careful on what kind of AI we develop. Yep, that's all of us. And then it's kind of interesting because the AI generate the Hollywood, not the Hollywood. Maybe that's the future with text to almost anything. Hollywood will become Hollywood instead. So before I introduce my amazing panelists, I'll introduce myself. I'm from MIT Media Lab. Anyone know MIT Media Lab? Woo! Yay, thank you. Thank you, that's exciting. We work on a lot of crazy things. So we are thinking beyond generative AI. How about dream engineering or cyborg and things like that? And as I said, I love dinosaurs. So my work has been on how do we enhance people, not just dinosaur, to become cyborg. And I look at the idea of human AI interaction, which I think is going to be more important as we explore this topic. I explore the idea what if maybe the director will have 3 heads, so we can generate AI version of all the directors. Like these are different version of me. My parent would say one of me is already more than enough, but these are different AI generated version of me. And we look at what happened when these AI help people. Like can they make them think in long term when you see an older version of yourself? Or what happened if we actually generate, all the Hollywood characters to teach your physics class or quantum physics class, like this one. Einstein can teach quantum physics, and Monroe can teach quantum physics. Harry Potter can teach quantum physics, and we have shown that it actually makes people more motivational and exciting. We also do a lot of project in space exploration, generative AI for space exploration, really exciting. And then lastly, we had teach the class on generative AI even before it was cool. And we had invited guests like Greg Daniels, who create amazing show like The Upload, The Office, and all these amazing people. And when he came to MIT, we gave him the script that was generated. So we gave him the script for the next 100th season of his show. He was surprised, but now he's more concerned than ever. So with that, now it's the time to meet our amazing panelists. Here we have John from Toonstar. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. John from Toonstar, and then
we can
anything
play
else?
the video.
Okay, well,
yep.
yeah, I think we're gonna play a quick video. So I'll just kind of give you a little prologue, and I should say it's first of all it's NSFW, so I apologize in advance. It's our disclaimer for what you're about to see. But this is actually a scene from a project we just launched called Space Junk. And space junk is actually a real problem. There are a bunch of fun facts I can rattle off. I won't do it now, but later, if you have, curious about the debris, millions of pieces of debris that are orbiting the Earth right now. But it's basically a real problem, and we're doing a series called Space Junk that stars John Heder, Tony Cavallero, and it's written by Dominic Russo, who was the creator of I don't know if any. Sorry, that's Siri. Any Workaholics fans here, but Dominic Russo was one of the co-creators of Workaholics. So this is my prologue to what you're about to see.
What are we?
I'm a bad boy billionaire. You're a $1.6 million robot that I bought to manage my life and my business. But because I'm a sucker for an upgrade, I sprung for girlfriend mode, which you're kind of making me regret right now.
I'm pregnant.
That's impossible!
And I'm keeping it.
Keeping what?
It's a meta baby, designed in our likeness.
Whoa. I paid way too much for you to fall down the stairs. How many zeros are we talking about here?
We need to get on the same page before I start showing.
Oh my gosh, showing what?
Pictures of her at the Super Bowl party. To your friends and family, wealthy investors and heads of state. I'm so excited to meet your ex-wives with small dogs from Earth and to finally get to rip the wings off of the chickens.
Wow, Just when I thought the worst thing about dating a robot was bringing my own WD-40. Look, Welbs, we're done.
No, we're not. Your girlfriend license is valid through December.
Okay, I just upgraded you to ex-girlfriend mode. So get the F out, and you can send me the bill when you Control-Alt-Delete that thing.
I gave you my best operating software. I wiped my drives clean for you.
And for the record, your tiny thumb drive couldn't even fill my USB port.
You're gonna regret dumping me, Thackeray.
Toonstar, everyone.
I was just gonna say, well, we can get into it, but the one thing I didn't mention is what you just saw as well, Becca, and that's the first AI voice character in an animated series. So
Amazing. Thank you.
Meet well, Becca.
Awesome. And next we have Nikola from Wonder Dynamics.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Nikola Todorovic. I'm a co-founder, CEO of Wonder Dynamics. At Wonder Dynamics, we're really focused at cutting down the cost and enabling more people to do films with CG and visual effects. We recently launched Wonder Studio, which is a browser-based platform to help you automate the process on it. So we'll play a little video.
Awesome. Let's see the video.
They say all great stories start with a sense of wonder. And what if bringing those stories to life wasn't limited by our resources, but only by our imagination? Welcome to Wonder Studio, where making movies with CGI is as simple as selecting your actor and assigning a character. The system uses AI to track the actor's performance across cuts and automatically animates, lights, and composes the CG character directly into the scene. Whether it's one shot or a full sequence, Wonder Studio analyzes and captures everything from body motion, lighting, compositing, camera motion, and it even tracks the actor's facial performance. All the artist needs is a camera. Filmmaking is a medium of creativity and collaboration between artists. There's no AI that can replace that. Wonder Studio was built to empower those artists while still keeping the existing 3D process in mind. Alongside the rendered results, Wonder Studio gives you the ability to export the individual layers you need to deliver your final visual effects shot. Whether it's lighting, camera, or animation, you can maintain full control and make detailed adjustments in 3D space. From the paintbrush, to the typewriter, to the camera, tools have always been an extension of the artist, a means to help our voices be heard. With Wonder Studio, we hope the world hears yours.
Amazing. Yay. I love the phrase here that said tools always extension of humankind. That's wonderful.
I'm just so glad you told me the audio is not going to work, and I thought I had to narrate. There's no way I could do that. I'm so happy the audio
With
worked.
the AI, we can do anything. Yeah. Okay, next we have Chris from Deep Voodoo.
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris. I'm a creative technologist who spent about 15 years in visual effects, primarily occupied with creating creatures and characters. So realistic animals, anthropomorphic animals, humans that are a little bit animal, but never humans that are just human, because that treacherous thing called the uncanny valley. So we'd always tend to avoid that. But it was the holy grail of visual effects, is to create a real kind of relatable, photorealistic looking human. And so now I'm engaged in the pursuit of that at Deep Voodoo, where we make machine learning models of human faces, and we can drive them in a number of ways. When you drive a human face model with another human face, it's colloquially called the deepfake. I have some issues with that term because it seems especially pejorative, but I think we've got a little news segment that we shared with our friends at Wonder Dynamics that we can show as an introduction to the company.
Awesome, let's see it.
Deep Voodoo is a visual effects company that specializes in what they call facial replacement AI.
What's a funny face I should make? Like
In about 30 minutes, they scanned my every expression to learn my facial movements. And 2 weeks later, we put the algorithm to the test with a body double and a live camera.
Okay, here we go.
Oh my God. That's so weird. Not my hair, but it's totally my face.
While visual effects have a long history in Hollywood, Deep Voodoo's precision and live render feature have won over celebrities like Kendrick Lamar, who use their technology to wear the faces of other celebrities.
Awesome, that's amazing. Thank you, Deep Voodoo and Chris. And then last but not least, we have Tony from Rising Sun Pictures.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tony Clark. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Rising Sun Pictures, a very noisy supporting group down the back. Thank you for the pep talk. We are a traditional visual effects company. We've always been, I think, motivated by the hybrid or the confluence of creativity and technology and how to apply technology in the service of creativity. So that's been a bit of a theme of mine personally, from a career in cinematography through to visual effects and starting Rising Sun. We're a 28-year-old company, so we've also experienced a lot of change. And so the change that we see now is the kinds of change that we've seen before, but just a little bit more dramatic.
So let's get started. So I have this hypothetical scenario, like in the future, far, far away, which I mean maybe next year, when AI is so advanced, and now even children, like maybe that baby, can generate a movie like a combination of Harry Potter, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, in the style of Spielberg plus Wes Anderson by just texting. That is a possibility that we're gonna face one day. What would that mean for the film industry?
I actually think that probably it's one of the dynamics that dropped the bomb on the film industry. Like your release of the promotional material really set a lot of tongues wagging. My LinkedIn was on fire for days off the back of the Wonder thing, because what I think you see there, and just basically discerning, without having had a conversation about it, you're seeing a whole bunch of known techniques put together in a simple interface that is usable by all filmmakers.
Right.
So what I think will happen into the future is that our industry these days is extremely complex. The tools that we work with, if anyone's ever picked up Nuke or Houdini and tried to make anything happen, it is years worth of practice into these tools.
Right.
And so I think large language models, simpler interfaces, AI techniques are going to democratize access to this. And so you're going to see the kind of techniques that are available in these first-class things available very widely to a wide range of filmmakers in ways that are traditionally not so.
Yeah.
I mean, can you come to my meetings with me?
Yeah, I'll lend a hand. We could just take this and play it back. This guy who's a competitor said this.
No, I think I agree with you. We started it because Ty, my co-founder, and I really wanted to make films ourselves that we could never afford. We started writing. I come from visual effects. I was an artist and a supervisor, and I was always so frustrated. You're always cutting down your script. You cannot touch certain things because it's so expensive. So I think accessibility is the main thing that excites me. But to what you said, to me, I'm not as much excited as people generating out of thin air in style of someone else. I'm more excited about how do we amplify existing artists. I think it's really important we build these AI tools with the artist community together, because they're going to be using it. And at the end of the day, they're the talent that drives this. So that's why we build Wonder Studio in that way. We're big admirers of, we know how hard it is to do what you guys do, right? So I think it's impossible to change the entire pipeline overnight. I think we have to build it in a way that we can, it's all in details, right? Like, director will come back to pass number 25 on a shot, right? And they want to change over camera. So I think creatives like control, and we're not seeing that yet in generative AI completely. So I think it's really important that we have these steps to get there.
Yeah, the notion of control, the agency, I think is really, really important. Yeah. And both of you want to add anything?
Yeah, that's, the visual effects pipeline, as we know, it didn't come around by accident. It's there, and it's heavy because it affords you immense amounts of control, over every pixel. Right. And I feel like it's been scary for big studios, both on the vendor side as visual effects studios, and for the production studios to want to adopt something that's still seen as a black box. That seems scary, like they're going to lose control over it. And so I think on the large scale features, we're going to see a transformation of that workflow. But I think this kind of technology offers the independent creators a much larger advantage than it does the big studios. I think we're going to see the biggest change there. Right. And I don't think Hollywood needs to be afraid of that. I think they're going to need to be prepared for independent creators. Like the panel that was just up here before us. I think there's going to be more of a dialogue between independent productions and large productions, because the moat that these large productions have over production value is shrinking.
Right. Would everyone become filmmakers or VFX creators then, if that is the case, you think?
Right, yeah.
Aren't they already? I mean, surely TikTok has changed the media landscape. Oh, sorry. These tools are creating micro channels, essentially. Like, if you consider the future or the history of media, visual media started playing in cinemas, and it was very tightly controlled. There's only a couple of places that you could go to things. Then you get network television. All of a sudden, you've got 5 outlets plus your cinemas who are able to do that. And then you get cable. All of a sudden, then you've got 100 outlets. And so content becomes more and more specific to the consumer. And I think that trend is going to continue. And I think the space that John is operating in is going to be really interesting, because then you start getting into user-driven content where the content might adapt on the way. So I don't think that this is a threat to the industry. I actually think this is a moment of empowerment for the industry, where people need to embrace these tools to enable us as an industry to evolve into what content looks like next. Right. Because I don't think it looks necessarily only like a linear form that we have now.
For us, we're very much about, we use this term community-driven storytelling. And that's what we're focused on. And we've been using the AI machine learning for years on the production side. And what that allows us to do, like the animation we did, it's basically like, analogous to, a gaming engine you guys, super familiar with, and we can do, and what it allows us to do is almost like real-time animation. And so the first project we did was called The Gimmicks. And we co-produced it with Mila Kunis, and it was, essentially the first community-driven animated series in Web3. And it was kind of, it's like choose your own adventures, the way it works. So we did 24 episodes. They're weekly episodes. And at the end of each episode, the community got to basically vote on what was going to happen in the subsequent episode. And to that point, community-driven storytelling, community experiences are the DNA, of we call ourselves a Web3 story studio, and that's like really our DNA. And so it, for us, it was like a very natural extension to say, hey, we can do these almost like near-time, real-time stories. Let's put that in the hands of the community and let them decide on what's going to happen next. And then we do the episode based on what they voted on. And we're now, extending that into this idea of we're using Welbecca, which was the AI voiced character that you just saw. And now she's become basically the creative co-pilot for the community. So for Space Junk, we just minted on Monday, and now you get your NFT, and you go, and your NFT basically has a code that unlocks basically a passport to Welbecca. She takes that now, and then she's going to help you write a fan fiction or backstory for your character. So now all of a sudden, not only is Welbecca like the voice, she's voiced by AI in the actual series itself. Now she becomes this creative co-pilot for the community, and basically a character generator for them. And then, you know, there are things we're going to play out from there where it's, you know, it goes text to text and text to image and then eventually text to video. But that's all community driven engagement directly with Welbeca as like their creative co-pilot. So that's, you know, very much like the DNA of this kind of stuff we're doing.
That's really exciting. And it seems to me that opened up sort of new form of storytelling. You know, like Marshall McLuhan once said that medium is a message, right? And it seems to me that with your company, you are sort of pushing that boundary. What are other ways that we can push the boundary with this new AI tool? What would the AI medium allow us to imagine things that we never imagined before?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a shift between, for us, it was all about how do you provide. So I come from an indie space, and indie filmmakers in general always stay away from visual effects or CG, right? Because of the cost associated with it.
Yeah.
So you're always cutting down your script. You're always being really strategic in your writing. So you're always sacrificing your story in one way or another. The way we saw AI is that it's going to kind of shift that indie space to be able to do what studios are doing now. And I think studios will just make bigger things, right? They've always done that in history. I think this whole fear of, oh, Hollywood's done because of AI, I think just silly. I think what studios will figure out how to push it to the next level because they're still going to make big budgets. I think what's exciting for me is that, you know, these tools at the end of the day are just tools to help us, you know, a means to an end to help us tell better stories. And I think there's a lot of storytellers around the world that want to tell stories. You know, we're always saying there's this gap between what we can imagine and what we can make, right? And that gap is still pretty big, right? So I think technology is here to bridge that gap a bit. And we're really early. You know, I think we'll keep pushing it just like we've always been in history.
And with that gap, is it something that had to do with the power of technology that we have today? Is it like a timely question or a timeless question? Like, you know, the AI is going to get better and, you know, now it's accelerating at very fast pace.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Or there's going to be something new, right? We don't know the name of it yet. What's
Right.
the new technology that we're going to invent?
Right.
I think it's always been, this industry wouldn't exist if it wasn't for technology advancement, right? Indie filmmaking started because of the camera.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about talkies, right? People were
Right.
freaking out when talkies came out. They're like, who wants to watch movies where people talk, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's always been this thing happening. So it's just, you know, it just helps us progress our, you know, fantasies and imagination because that's really what's limitless at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that that idea that, you know, something new will come along and will let you do something much faster never means you're going to do the same amount of work in half the time. It means you're going to do twice the amount of work, and that's a joke we've always had, at least in visual effects. You know, that like, oh, this render is twice as fast. You know what that means? Twice as many iterations.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of a useful frame to look at kind of the world writ large too. That, you know, when people talk about AI coming for their jobs, I think it's just going to make everybody more productive.
Right. But more exhausting as well. More exhausted also. Yeah. Interesting.
I think
Maybe
keeping up with the ability to iterate, like the complexity of iterations is going to become so dense that you know so much is going to be changing on every one of those iterations. It's going to be challenging. But I sort of feel like we come from a reasonably unique perspective, having had 28 years in one business, and the film that sort of we went from being 30 people to 130 people was a picture called Charlotte's Web. If I consider what we did on Charlotte's Web, it was good, it was cutting edge, it was sophisticated, but the technology we used was like about 0.5% of the speed of the technology that we use today. We use more technology, more people, more complexity than we've ever had as a result. And so what's happened as enabling technologies has come along is it's expanded the market. It's meant that more high-end technologies are available to other filmmakers, pretty much exactly as you say. It's pushed down into films that otherwise wouldn't have been able to access that technology. So I do believe that ultimately the market expands to the capability of the technology. And so it's not a case of removing jobs. They will absolutely change, in our view. More will be put in the hands of less people, more capability in the hands of less steps, because a visual effects workflow is massively complicated. A dozen different specialized disciplines, a couple of different super complicated tool sets that you can't actually master. So anything that simplifies that and makes that more accessible to people is a good thing.
The thing that we talk about sometimes is this notion of like studio of one.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that might be taking it to the extreme. Like, is it actually one person that can do all this? You know, today, don't know. In the future, potentially. But I think there's this really exciting, you know, possibility around, and it's the same, you know, same theme of like democratization and empowerment. And you know, my co-founder and I, we come from the big studio system. So we were we met at Warner Brothers, and before that we were at Disney and DreamWorks. So, you know, we understand, we've been fortunate to work on a lot of big franchise properties and, you know, a lot of big, you know, like amazing stories. But we also saw this challenge of like, it felt a little bit like a private club, and it was only, like the few that had access to get an animated series made and tell their stories. And it was always a bit of a head scratcher for us because, spoiler alert, like I'm, Gen X. So I grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, and I just love animation. And my brother's a cartoonist, so I used to go to Comic-Con before, again, spoiled, before people knew what Comic-Con really was. And it's just in animation, such an amazing medium. And like, why don't more people have access to it? Why aren't more new and diverse storytellers getting a chance to have something made? And I think one of the current, and I feel like I can say this coming from the studio system, is one of the challenges. There's a bottleneck. Not enough stuff's getting, made, and not enough stories are being told. And so now you've got the ability for, again, like whether it's a Studio One, but whatever it is, more people can get stuff made, more stories can be told. And, we just think that's a good thing. Like, I don't, that hopefully it should be positive.
I agree with that. I think there's this notion, at least for me, I was born in Bosnia, I lived in Croatia and Serbia, and it took me many years to move here and break into the industry. And, I always say there's a lot of people, storytellers around the world that don't get that chance. They're not lucky enough to get there. So I think that's the bottom line of this technology is like, how do we lower that barrier of entry that this industry has? Because it does have a really high barrier of entry. It takes many years. It takes so long to get project funded. And if you have visual effects and CG in it, and you're first-time director, and you want to do a CG film, forget about it, right? So for us, I think it'll do that, but it also will give opportunity for people, Studio One, to create a pitch viz, right? If I can create a 2-minute thing, the executive will most likely watch that versus 3-hour script, right? To read a script, right? So I think it will just fund more projects and enable more people to tell stories. And
That's awesome. And, there are two things that make me kind of optimistic about the future. One is that you all sort of are artists and creators in this area, and you are creating tools that are empowering people. I think that's, those are really, really powerful and very exciting for many people in the industry. Are there any concerns that you have with this technology? Because, people are going to use technology or abuse it in a way that you never imagined.
I think for us, it was really important. Like, we went with it not as a typical generative AI. We don't generate art. I don't want to. So for us, it was really important not to take or train on people's art, right? Yeah. We went more like, how do I amplify existing VFX process? Just because of that control you were talking about, I think that's a first step. Then eventually we'll get there, full text to video and all those things. But I think there's a big ethical problem there. And I think it's really important to respect the artist and the art of it, because it is, we've been in it for, 4 or 5 years. A lot of artists just found out about this a month, 2 months ago. Right. So it is a bit, I was on the panels last year talking to people about AI and visual effects, and a lot of people, visual effects have been using machine learning, for 20 years, right? This is not new. So I do think it's really important to go together with the community, go together with all the artists, and make tools that are a bit transitional, right? Don't go immediately on like, let's jump over these existing pipelines, because this is, as you said, these pipelines are here for a reason. It's really hard to make these films. So, I don't think it's like, we shouldn't be looking at it like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, I'm going to make it completely better. We should look at it, how do I make this faster? Because this artist just spent 10 years working in Maya. How do I speed up that process, right? Instead of saying like, oh, I don't need that artist at all.
How do you prevent that though? I mean, if there are like companies or studio that want to replace that altogether, how would we prevent that? Or
I think there's a way. Like the way we did it, our first project we did with the Russo brothers, Netflix project, we brought in artists that worked on Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy, and we said, don't worry about AI. Don't worry, we don't want to build it as a black box. Just tell us what passes and elements you need to complete your VFX shot. And that really kind of helped us build our product with understanding of those artists. So I think really it comes down to communication. Talk to your artists, understand what their needs are, understand the existing pipelines.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think there's a good point there with the fact that these tools are just a progression of the ones visual effects has adopted for a long time. And it feels, I think, to lay people like this is a change happening really fast. It's a step change, right? That it's something we can't understand, can't predict. And I think our perspective is really valuable to add to that conversation to the extent we can to like assuage some fears. This, we talk about the danger of deepfakes or creating digital humans or something. You know, we've been at it for decades, literally trying to do this, and you know, Photoshop's been around for decades. We've been engaged with making synthetic imagery for a really long time, and obviously that, you know, it's accelerated recently, but you know, we're not doing anything fundamentally that we haven't been engaged with for a really long time. And so when we think about, well, what are the ethical concerns here, I think they're the same as they've always been. Like when you're using Photoshop, I feel like you've got the same ethical concern as when you're using one of these really powerful, fast machine learning models that can create a human face. It's that, you know, they're very useful storytelling tools, and I think you know, everybody here is engaged with storytelling in a way where we don't really think about misleading people, but certainly that's a huge component of the ethical concerns, like making sure that you're not creating something that's going to give people a false impression. You know, when they walk away from one of our stories, they walk away knowing it's a story, but people encounter media these days in a way that they can't contextualize it like that. And I feel like that's the primary one that we think about everything we do, which is sometimes kind of pushing the boundaries of what is you know, considered safe for people. We try to make sure that we're not contributing to this problem of like misinformation out there.
Definitely. Yeah, and there are many AI winters before, so this is definitely not a new thing, definitely. So before we open up for the audience, I have one last question. So what are you most excited about in this, you know, technological sort of progress on generative AI and VFX, and what is beyond generative AI? What is one step after this?
I'm going to take that one. I came to a conference here in 2010, and it was at the peak of the collapse of a company called Rhythm and Hughes, and the industry was in massive disarray because the jobs were being sent to Vancouver. It was fear everywhere. Jobs are going to Vancouver, work's being sent offshore. It's the globalization of the industry. It was a massive watershed moment, and the Visual Effects Society did, I think, the community a huge favor. I don't know how much of that got picked up, but they brought in a futurist from JPL, who's a really enlightened guy whose name escapes me because I'm old and stuff leaks out of my head. But they brought in this guy, and he said, what you've got to understand is that everything in front of us today is being driven by Moore's law. Moore's law means that computing power doubles every 18 months. And so there's this exponential increase in computing power. What we see happening today in AI is enabled by Moore's law. And I think the thing that excites me is a form of user-specific or user-interactive content. And that's why I'm really interested in what John's working at in that space. Because I think that there's a form of content coming in the future, and it's not too far away. I thought it was 5 years ago until about 6 months, 5 years away until 6 months ago. But that's a form of user-generated content where my taste is synthesized with the taste of the creator who's creating a narrative story for me. And I'm delivered a specific piece of content that is unique to my tastes and their tastes. And I say, I like the cinematography of Caleb Deschanel. I want it shot like that. And these kinds of things can be taken on. This is within our grasp inside of 10 years and probably only 2. When we saw Midjourney, it was like, boom, it's here. It's not 5 years away, it's now. So we're already in the transition for that. And I think that's incredibly exciting and empowering for us as creative people.
Awesome. I am really excited about not just using machine learning or AI to create better tools, but those tools creating better people, that we can look at these tools and understand them in a way that allows us to understand the process that they're doing in a better way. So, you know, in the same way the invention of the camera really affected fine art, you know, it gave people a toy eye so that they could understand perspective better.
I see.
And so, you know, if you're an animator and now you have a machine learning model that can generate, you know, a photoreal human motion or human face or something, understanding what it is that it's doing, you know, now we've got a toy brain, right? The same way you had a toy eye to understand what is it that it's doing with this animation that I couldn't do, that I couldn't see. And so I don't think I've heard anybody talk about interpretability yet at this conference. And so now that's my drum to bang is, you know, somebody out there who wants to get involved in AI and doesn't know what their niche is, interpretability, I think, is a huge thing. That's like trying to figure out what these things have learned. Like what do they think is salient about an image or about a piece of animation? And I think that's going to inform all of us about, you know, our own work in a way that we couldn't have otherwise. I think these things are a really, really powerful mirror, both on ourselves and on the world. And it gets us out of our own perspective in a way that wasn't possible before. And that's, I think, the thing I'm most excited about the near future.
So we can have toy Spielberg, and then we can see how he thinks. And potentially learn from him.
Exactly. What is the essence of Spielberg? Like, you can ask Midjourney to generate a Spielberg image, but without knowing what, every node or hidden layer in the network is doing, we don't really know how it's come to that. Like, what is the essence of Spielberg? There might be a node in there that is the essence of Spielberg, and we can probe that network and see like what other nodes in this network are attached to that, and get like this really kind of more fundamental understanding of these aesthetics that we didn't have the right language for and still don't have the right language for.
Yeah, mechanistic interpretability is a new term that's gonna come after this. Yeah.
Yeah, is that a license issue then? I'm just kidding. No, I think for me, I'm really excited right now about dynamic nerves. I think that's going to be really exciting. And there's something we're working on called scene understanding, which we're really excited about.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like we started this, because of robotics and self-driving cars, right? It's like if you want to teach a robot how to make your sandwich, first it needs to understand what a sandwich is, it needs to understand depth, it needs to understand human motion, right? So we in a sense kind of hijack this field from people, like Antonio Torralba from MIT that so these people were using these tools for very different use cases. We just saw it, it's just image sequence, just like film, so we can understand that. But I think what excites me the most is accessibility. If we talk about Spielberg, where's the next Spielberg kid coming from? What village in the world are they living on, right? So I think this open, kind of access to this tool is really excited, and how easy it is. For us, it was really important to make it in a web browser, so we can do that. So I think it's always been, not to go too long with this, but I love this story. I think this town of Hollywood was started because the lawyers tried to avoid IP from Edison Company. When the first camera was invented, Edison owned all the patents on Nickelodeons, which was the theaters back in the day, and the cameras. So the first filmmakers had to pay license fee on everything they created to the Edison Company. So the lawyer said, let's move across the country, because that law was not applicable in California. They found a town in Hollywood because it was close to the beach and everything. So this industry really got started because we were escaping licensing issues, right? Because someone wanted to full control over technology. I think the beauty of AI is there's so much open source, there's so much accessibility, so you can really open it up to the world.
That's really exciting.
I'm going to start taking Tony to meetings too. So in fact, I'm taking all you guys to all the partner meetings. But yeah, I think for us, what I'm most excited about is one, and everything you guys have said, like the opportunities for storytellers and the next generation of storytellers and the next, kick-ass story worlds are going to get created. I think, that is amazing, and we're really excited for that on the creator storyteller side. And then I think on the fan and community side, we're equally excited about that, because I think the other thing that, and we're, super focused on is community and fan experiences and giving fans and communities a chance to participate. So the other thing we talk a lot about is participatory storytelling and giving them, giving the fans and community agency in where the story goes. And I think, when you start to think about younger generations, specifically Gen Z and millennials, the expectation much more so now is that they participate in some way. And I think social media has done a lot to train generations on this, but there's a spectrum of participation. It could be something as simple as a like or a share or a follow, but it could also be, hey, I want to get in and I want to write a backstory for my character. I want to help drive the narrative for where this world's going. I want to build like side canon that eventually can maybe become part of the proper canon. And I want to earn my way in through effort and creativity and building things. And I think that's all part of the fan experience. And I think you now have generations that have come to expect that. And I think it's exciting, and almost in some way a little bit of intersection of like content, story, and gameplay, a little bit in a way, in like social media. So I think this, and when you think about AI and what AI can do to create those kind of experiences, huge potential.
Awesome, thank you. I think we have we have no time. Oh, so you can come talk to us later. This is a panel on pixel and possibility. Hopefully everyone feel more excited about the future possibility with AI. So please give another round of applause to these amazing panelists. Thank you so much.